Hello everyone, welcome to the Diplomacy course. We will continue with Chapter 6, Diplomacy of the Republic of Turkey. In this chapter, we will talk about theorizing Turkish diplomacy and foreign policy, actors, processes, and tools of Turkish diplomacy, and Turkey's relations with NATO as a case study. Let's start with theorizing Turkish diplomacy and foreign policy. The first legacy that the rulers of the Turkish Republic inherited from the Ottoman past is that the state is the main diplomatic and security actor. National security and foreign policy interests have long been defined from the perspective of the state. Another aspect of the Ottoman legacy is that diplomatic and foreign policy issues need to be dealt with secretly and behind closed doors. Westernization is a very important structural variable of Turkish foreign policy. Since the second half of the 19th century, Turkey has made efforts to join the key European international organizations. Westernization is also thought as a security strategy in that Turkey would feel itself safe and secure if it came closer to the West and its Western identity were recognized as such by Westerners. Given that the Ottoman Empire came to an end at the hands of the Western European nations, the founding fathers of the Republic assumed that Turkey's security would improve if Europeans saw Turkey as a member of the European family of nations. To Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, the founder of the Republic, and his comrades in arms, Turkey's number one national interest during the 1920s and 1930s was to protect the newly gained independence and sovereignty, as well as successfully completing the radical transformation process at home. This required the pursuit of a pragmatic, prudent, and realist foreign policy, enshrining the principle of peace at home, peace in the world. Geography was also an important factor. Turkey's geographical location has always been the most important leverage in Turkey's relations with other countries. Despite the danger of exaggerating geographical determinism, it would not be wrong to argue that Turkey's diplomatic relations and foreign policy record during much of the Republican era have been deeply informed by Turkey's geography. Let's move on to actors, processes, and tools of Turkish diplomacy. The government is the main actor in charge of defining Turkey's foreign policy interests and diplomatic goals. Constitutionally speaking, it is the elected representatives of the Turkish people that have the final authority to determine Turkey's foreign policy orientation. Despite the primacy of elected civilians in this process, the appointed bureaucrats in state administration have long played the most decisive role. Foreign policy decision-making process in Turkey is now both centralized and civilianized. The input of public opinion is traditionally limited, yet recent decades have witnessed that governments have increasingly taken into account the potential consequences of foreign policy decisions on domestic politics. Conducting foreign policy with domestic policy motivations has now become a norm, and this attests to the growing importance of public opinion in foreign policy making process. As of today, Turkey has more than 200 diplomatic missions all around the globe. While ambassadorial missions deal with diplomatic and political issues, consulates are in charge of dealing with social, cultural, and similar problems of Turkish people living in other countries. While many embassies are located in the capital city of other countries conducting official diplomatic relations between Turkey and the country in which they are located, some embassies represent Turkey in international organizations such as the United Nations, European Union, and NATO. Our final topic is Turkey's relations with NATO as a case study. Turkey has been one of the most important members of NATO since its accession to the alliance in 1952. Having defined for many years its foreign, defense, and security policies on the basis of NATO membership, Turkey began to adopt a more questioning and critical perspective towards the alliance with the end of the Cold War. Although NATO continues to maintain its importance in Turkish foreign and security policy thinking, it would be wrong to suggest that this is at the same level as it was during the Cold War era. After the Second World War ended, Turkey wanted to join NATO mainly from a security-oriented perspective. Given that Turkey and other NATO members regarded the Soviet Union as the common enemy during the Cold War, Turkey was able to pursue NATO-oriented foreign and security policies. After the Cold War ended and the threats stemming from the Soviet Union disappeared, Turkey's attitude towards the alliance has begun to change. The last 2 decades have seen that, compared to its neighbors, Turkey's hard and soft power capabilities have tremendously improved. Simultaneously, Turkey has begun to play more active foreign policy roles. Furthermore, threats leveled against Turkey's national security have changed during this process. Another factor that has proved to be effective in shaping Turkey's attitude towards NATO in the post-Cold War era is that the quality of Turkey's relations with European allies have begun to be much more dependent on the pace of Turkey's accession process with the European Union. As Turkey's contribution to Europe's security within NATO has gradually become less emphasized, absent the common Soviet threat, the quality of Turkey's relations with European states has become very much a function of Turkey's EU membership process. NATO is still important for Turkey, yet Turkey's changing identity and interests will continue to lead Turkish decision-makers to adopt more questioning and critical attitudes towards the alliance in the years to come. NATO will hardly maintain its privileged position in Turkish security thinking as it had in the past. So, this is the end of our program for Chapter 6 of the Diplomacy course. Goodbye and see you in our next program, Chapter 7.